Hey guys, welcome to one more episode of our Torch Tales, Stories Behind the Hood, where we talk to friends in the industry and what we are interested on, it's on their stories, their path, their roadway to this amazing industry that I stumbled 12 years ago. And today I'm very lucky to have a friend that I met 4 years ago or so. His name is Charles Elliot. Thank you, Charles. Thank you very much for spending half hour here with me and this crazy idea. Like I told you before, I got no script. You know, this could go left, right, up and down. You know, it's very organic. And I'm not interested in the welding per se. I'm interested on the people behind the welding industry. Mm-hmm. And so I know that we've kind of talked a little bit about our path, you know, and past history before this and all that, but I wanted to put that on camera. And Charles was nice enough to say yes. And but before he said yes, of course, like anybody else, he asked, Frank, what the hell is this? What are we going to be talking about? What are you going to be asking? Which I don't blame him. I'd be asking those questions too. So I told him exactly what everyone wants to hear. Yeah, we're going to talk about politics, religion, and sex, because that's what sells, right? Not really. Charles, so even though I know a little bit about yourself already, I want to kind of go back. And again, like I said, we're going to go all over the place on this. So I know that you are 20 plus years in this industry.
Yes.
Because in fact, you mentioned that yesterday. So let's go back. I'm assuming you are in your 20s, early 20s. Absolutely. All right, when you started this industry. What were you doing before and how did you stumble into the industry?
Okay. Honestly, before I just had a factory job.
Okay.
And I went to church with then the owner's grandson.
Okay.
And his name is Shane Miles. He's now the owner.
Gotcha.
But at that time, he needed help in the fill plant. So basically filling the bottles and rolling the bottles, moving the cylinders, just help.
So he needed muscle.
He just needed muscle and a young back and a weak mind, and I provided both. And, I was then 22 when I started at O2 Plus, and of course his grandfather owned it. And so we just kind of worked from there. Shane managed the fill plant. I was his assistant, and he trained me to do the fill plant, and I took over management of the fill plant a couple of years later. And I've done the bills inside the company, like I did the accounts receivable.
And sorry to interrupt. I do that all the time. We are here in Atlanta at O2 Plus. And definitely, as Charles mentioned, this is how old of a company?
We are, 96, so what is that? 27 years old.
27, and out of those 27, you've been with the company 21.
21, yes, sir.
All right, great. So then here you are with Shane. He's doing the one part of the business. You're doing the heavy lifting, the physical part of the business, which that's the way it should be. You're young, and you got to start somewhere, right?
That's right.
So... Now you are you a part-time back then, or were you a full-time?
I started it full-time, yeah. I
really?
Was full-time.
Right off the bat?
Right off the bat, yeah.
So coming into the industry, in this same location?
No, this was in Carrollton. And back then, we only had 5 employees.
5 employees. At the time. And now you guys have?
We have 13.
13.
I think so, yeah.
So here you are, 22. You stumble or get asked to help in this industry.
Right.
And what is, before we touch into the whole personal thing, this is the plug, the shameless plug to the distributor. What do you see that it's the hardest thing from when you started 22 years ago to now? Is it harder? Is it easier because of the technical and technology nowadays helps some? Or is it just harder now?
What part of the business do you mean?
Overall, you started from scratch, so you were rolling cylinders, you were doing the whole thing. Now you are, behind doors and doing still everything.
Yeah.
But if you had a 22-year-old start now versus you when you were 22 years old back then, would you say you had it harder or they have it harder? What do you see that is the main difference nowadays?
Well, it's hard to find good 22-year-old labor nowadays because apparently we had lower standards for what work life was like when I was 22, to be fair, because I had came from a factory.
Okay.
So, I knew how boring and mundane those factory work jobs can be. And the good thing about the field plan is everything's different every day. I mean,
Gotcha.
yeah, you're taking empty bottles and making them full, that's your goal, but you never knew what would come up because we were a small business. I may also be running deliveries or helping a customer or fixing our manifold or whatever, and it makes it new. I don't know that the young guys now appreciate that and starting at the bottom and all the things you're learning because they want to come in and be the manager. That's the issue. That's the issue. I think it's their expectations have made it to where that's what makes it to where sometimes they're not the best help, and that's the reason we got to retrain these young guys.
Yeah, I think so too. And what's funny about this is that you were saying it, and it's not like you are first generation. Like you're relatively young for the industry. In your 40s, I'm assuming. Yeah. And so that is kind of young in this industry. So for you to say that, because I'm 45 and we find that same thing where, I'm just a few years before millennials. But then again, I kind of understand them a little bit because I was able to touch and I was able to have a little bit of, from the pager to the BlackBerry to the, what we got nowadays, right? So I experienced a little bit of everything. So I get what you're saying, but I think you're right. It falls under us to make sure that they know what their expectations are right from the beginning. Don't let them assume anything, because if you let that, forget it. It goes left. Now, I know you're married and you have kids, right?
Yes, 2.
So how long have you been married?
We've been married for 22 years.
So if she ever sees that, he better be right. I'm just saying, because we never get it wrong. So 22 years. So you were starting the company, or you had just started, or you got?
I got married, and about a year and 6 months later, I came on to O2 Plus.
Cool. And how old are your kids?
I have a 19-year-old and a 14-year-old.
Really?
This week, yeah.
Cool.
So
that's awesome. And so I know I've also seen you at some shows. Part of what you do, along with running the daily everything of a distributorship and in this industry, which it could be many different things. I know that you travel to some shows and trade shows. Was that always part of the deal? Did you guys kind of join some groups and said, hey, we better have a presence, or you guys, someone told you and said, hey, you guys should go out there and learn from what's happening in the industry? How did that come about?
Well, honestly, they tried for a while to get us on AIWD.
Okay.
And we finally, I told Shane, I said, listen, there's rebates and stuff that we're just not taking advantage of.
Gotcha.
But really what was the driving force is the ability to start with vendors.
Okay.
Because we had access to a lot more vendors through those buying groups, easier access.
Correct.
I should say. And then, of course, we started, I went to you have to go to certain meetings, but to be honest, you get so many good contacts out of those meetings that I feel like those trips are definitely well worth it for the industry, for someone who wants to learn about new products and new ways to take care of customers.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I know that you take advantage, every once in a while, and bring the family, and, because that's the only way that you can kind of make sure that you are keeping everyone happy. You go there and learn, and you bring all that knowledge back to the business, but also you got to keep the family happy and spend time with them. So I met your lovely wife in San Diego, I think it was.
Yep, absolutely.
And, great. We had a great dinner out there, and thank you for joining us that day. And one of the things that I wanted to mention before I forget, it's in my kind of, my life and what we do for a living. I'm a rep, sales manager, national, regional manager, whatever the title might be. One of the things that we have to deal with is rejection, and when we do sales calls and stuff like that. And we're okay with getting a no. I'm not getting a sell. That's part of it. But when you find someone that at least gives you the time of day to talk to you, to let you know a little bit about their business, because here's what happens. I might not know everything that I need to know about a specific business, and I might not know what your customers need. And just by having a conversation, you might tell me something that it might change my approach on trying to sell you something, And what I mean is, you'll share some information. I go, oh, we have this, or we have that, or did you know that we can do this? And that only happens if someone gives you the time of day. So the reason why I say this is because I want to thank you on camera that I met you 4 years ago, and you've always have taken the time to at least listen and have a conversation. And that goes organically, and to look into opportunities, and like you said. So I thank you.
Thank you.
And is that something that is that your personality? Is that something that you learned on how to approach people? Because I've also seen him at the desk working the counter and working with customers, and everyone comes in and says, hey, Charles, knows him by name and treats him very well, and he has that conversation, that rapport back and forth. So is that something that you always had, or you learned along the way?
Well, honestly, when I started helping in the field plant, that was a good spot for me because I was shy to talk to people and speaking in public, and that was just not my thing. But whenever I took over this store back in 2011, the issue was I had worked in the field plant, I had collected the money, and I had sold some stuff at the counter, but basically I was selling somebody else's stock.
Correct.
And I didn't know the stuff. And so when I got here, I relied on resources like Frank coming in and sharing his information, because I believe this. I believe a couple of things. For one, that I know what I'm selling. If I've bought it, I know it better than the guy I'm selling it to 90% of the time. Yeah. Sometimes that guy asks me to get it because he knows that product.
Correct.
But most of the time I know more about it, and I feel like the same thing goes with my reps. If they're not a agency rep, if they actually work for one company like Uniweld or whatever, then I feel like you know that product. You know the line, you know what's useful in which situation, and you can better equip me to help my customer, which at the end of the day is why I have a rapport with them, because I help them solve problems. Because you can buy products anywhere.
Correct.
But you cannot solve your problems everywhere. And that's what I try to help do, is solve those problems. And that's why they come in and they know my name and they look for me. And because I enjoy doing that. And that's what I learned years ago, is if I make it about helping them find what they need when they need it, then I'll enjoy it and they enjoy that.
Yeah, you're 100% right. It's I've always said this, if we choose to do this for a living, might as well try to do it well.
Right.
Because you have choices. We think we might not, but we have choices. We can be somewhere else anytime. Now, walk me through your daily routine. You are a GM, you are overseeing, you guys have 2 stores now?
Yes.
2 stores, right? And so you start, what time in the morning, and what happens?
Well, I live an hour away from here, of course, because I don't like the...
You don't like Atlanta traffic?
Right. I don't want to live in Atlanta traffic. And I don't, because I don't like the traffic, I also get up early. I usually get up about 4:30. And I'm here...
Holy crap.
I'm usually here at 6.
All right.
That's my goal, is to be at the desk at 6. And I do that mainly because it's twofold. One, yes, I want to beat that traffic. But 2, also... because the customers often look for me when they get here.
Right.
And I have some of them that'll come, they don't care if the door's closed, they're going to knock because they want to say, hey, and I love that. That's part of it. But I try to get a lot of my busy work done in those mornings, because I get an hour and a half or 2 hours before they get here, and I can get that done.
For yourself, and kind of get your day set.
And so that works out. So usually I'm sitting here at 6, and I try to leave early. When I say early, 3:30, a couple days a week. A lot of times I don't leave till 4:30.
Yeah.
So I get home about 6 o'clock. But it's long days. I mean, it really is. And I know a lot of people aren't willing to do that. But our kids are older now.
Yeah, so that makes it easy.
Yes. When they were young, though, it was different. And of course, the store wasn't as busy as it was now, so I could come in later. and I would basically come in after the morning rush because I'd take my boys to school and I'd had the mornings with them. So, I mean, it's changed some, but I have to applaud Shane because he's always been flexible about that. All the ball games over the years, and because you know how rec ball is.
I know. I
every
coached
night
for a long time.
Right. And we had something every night. So many weeks with two boys, you would have two different spots.
Yeah.
And the wife works too, so it's it's not her job, it's our jobs.
I get it. And so I know you have how many people in this particular store working with you?
I have two counter guys full time, and then of course Luke helps out some, which is my oldest son when he's not in school. Then I also have just one driver.
Okay.
And that's why sometimes, like yesterday, I'll hop in the pickup truck and drive something to somebody because I got to take care of it.
Correct. Yeah.
But we try to do that until that way when we grow, we'll need another driver eventually. But I want to make sure we can.
It's the right call at the right time.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and that's one of the things, I think, finding drivers, it's one of the hardest things, because of, I'm assuming that you guys need a CDL as well, right?
CDL hazmat, yes, sir.
Correct. So that's they know they're on demand and they're asking high pay, but before you get to that, you got to find them. So go figure, right?
Very true.
And so when you travel, and now we're going back to the personal thing. What do you like about traveling? And I always ask this to everyone because I travel for a living. I love traveling for a couple of different reasons. One is I get to meet a lot of people. Second, sightseeing. I love walking around, taking pictures. And I'm a foodie. There's nothing I don't eat. In fact, we've talked about this before. So what do you like about traveling?
Probably a lot of the same things. I love seeing new places. I really love to travel with my wife because she's like me and she just enjoys seeing
this guy's smart. This guy knows what he's doing.
She enjoys seeing stuff like that. And, of course, we do like to try different cuisines. She's better about testing odd foods than I'm definitely no Frank. But, however, but she's pretty good about that. But I do like to see the new places. I also like to take pictures. I have a nice camera that I'll take out, even when I go beyond the cell phone. So I do like that. But honestly, I like to get just to get away from my normal because the schedule can be rigorous.
Correct. Yeah.
It helps to have those breaks. 3 and 4 day breaks are better for me than week longs. But
yeah, I think I agree with that. When I go on vacation and I've done 2 weeks and I start going nuts.
Yeah.
I start missing work. I start missing things. So for me, the 4 or 5 day ratio works out perfect. Unless I'm going too far. Too far. Then you need 2 days just to get there.
Yeah.
So tell me about a place that you love and that you always like going back or you wish that you went back. And tell me about another place that one time was good enough.
Well, the place I loved, honestly, was when we were in Colorado.
All right.
For the AIWD show.
Oh, that's right.
Colorado Springs is gorgeous. The weather was fantastic.
Yeah.
And everybody was pretty nice. I know that can be a mixed batch, but and like I said, I would go there again easily.
Yeah.
But did you get to go that year?
I was there.
Broadmoor?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so. I remember seeing you there, but I don't think we got to eat that time. We will from now on.
Yeah.
But then the place that I could probably be okay not going back is probably Chicago. And I like Chicago.
So why specifically?
Just it honestly
Too cold, too windy, dirty, whatever.
Well, when we were
again, it's just a personal opinion.
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
Don't.
No,
I don't want to piss anybody off.
No, we went there in August, and it was honestly kind of nice weather-wise.
Okay.
It was kind of warm during the day, and cool at night because of that wind. But it's just one of those things. Now everything there is expensive. The taxes higher.
That's right.
But I do like a walking city. I love to see that. I love the pier. That was nice.
Yeah.
But I kind of felt like I've seen it. It's not. It don't have that appeal that Colorado Springs or Boston. I love.
Well,
Boston.
the thing is that I think a lot of us in the industry have talked about this. It's very hard to go to Colorado, the Broadmoor, and then go elsewhere. That's expectations. I mean, come on, it just makes it impossible for the rest of the country. Sorry, it is what it is. So now that you have help, meaning going back to the business side. And again, like I told you guys, this has no script. It's organic. Whatever comes to mind. I ask. Plus, it's my show. I do whatever I want, right? So now that you have steady help, and the reason why I say steady help is because I've seen the same faces here for a bit, and I'm assuming where did they come from? Where did you find them? And I ask that because everyone's always having trouble finding people.
Very true. And we've definitely shared that pain. In fact, I'm trying to think of any of our employees. We've went through temp agencies because, like you said, CDL drivers are mainly it's connecting with them. Because I will say this for our younger generation, most of them do not like the over-the-road job. So a CDL driver prefers those local jobs.
Yeah.
The problem is there's a limited number of those.
Correct.
And again, we got to have that hazmat too. So it's just about meeting the person. But to be honest, all of our help right now, none of them have came through just a temp agency or a blind hire.
So it's kind of like referral friends or
yes.
That is so key.
Which is very interesting because that's how Shane hired me.
Oh, really?
We were buddies years ago and went to the same church and did all the same stuff, and that's why he asked me about coming to work for him. And I'm looking at like my brother-in-law runs the Carrollton store. Yeah. And of course I got him on. The field plant guy was his buddy. All this stuff, everybody's connected.
Yeah, it's and you find that with family-owned operations, where at the end of the day that works more than anything else. Yeah. The company I work for, Uniweld, we go through temp agencies as well, and it's in and out. It's a revolving door, and the referrals, friends, it's what works. It's amazing, and we have people there for 40, 50 years still. Right. What is your customer base here in this area, and is it the same as the other store, or it changes just because of that 45 minutes apart?
Right. It's very different than the other store. Our footprints are very different. The type of tools we even sell are just that is right. I got, and again, interrupting my guest, right? I have to say, his showroom, which I'll post a picture if he allows me on once I edit this whole thing. I got to talk to my producer, the sound guy, and the road manager to do this. But he has a showroom that has a little bit of everything, and we've talked about this. How you cater to almost every need. And that it's cool to see because there's a lot of neat stuff here. So the footprint comes in different versus the other store. Yes, and to be honest, whenever our store up here was successful and started getting more and more of the retail end, we tried to, and we have copied quite a bit of that to the Carrollton location when they renovated it, and we got a new building and showroom. And some of the tools sell, don't get me wrong, but a lot of things that we sell a lot of, they sell very, very few of. And it's such a different market, like even like the cutters and stuff like that for the drills and things like that, they move very few, and I make a lot of those sales because people walk in and you have it, but it's just a different industry. And of course I have the Georgia Power, Delta, people like that, and they're by, whenever they realize you have something, they also tell their friends, and so they're the best salespeople we have because we don't have outside sales. So.
Oh, you don't?
Not at all.
Is that something by design, or just you guys had a good one or a bad one and kind of went like,
Well, we've really tried, but it seems like outside sales oftentimes comes down to going in and trying to cut somebody else's price. And to be honest, I've never liked that business. I feel like if someone comes to you for $1, they will leave you for $1. Yeah. And I prefer the relationship
What
business.
a concept. Have you guys ever heard that before?
Yeah. But it's very true though, especially in this industry, because you're really just buying business, and that's not what we're about. We have a lot of customers that appreciate the service we provide, and we prefer to focus on that as opposed to pick up customers that want to save $1.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it is so true. And I see that on my end all the time. It's part of the business. It's not the sexy part of the business, but it is what it is. Do you, now that you are 20, now he's a veteran now in the industry, 21 years, that counts. Do you see yourself doing anything else now that you've done this for 21 years? And that's hard to answer.
Yeah.
But have you ever thought of, I wonder if that one thing that I used to like when I was 20 or that I was dreaming of, I wonder if I would have stayed with whatever that was. Have you ever thought of something else, especially nowadays?
Well, it's funny you said that because what I went to school for was computer programming and networking.
All right.
And, what happened is right around that time I got out of school, like 01, that's whenever the dot-coms went under after 9/11.
Oh.
And so when that happened...
We could have been talking to a billionaire here.
Well, or just a programmer. That's what I'm thinking. I'd be hitting code all day and it'd be so boring. But looking back, I can't imagine doing that every day where I'm just with a computer.
In front of a computer.
And I enjoy computers, but I really like the people better.
I agree 100%.
It's a lot more fun.
Yeah. And Charles, again, I want to thank you. I told you this was going to be painless. It's just a crazy idea that I came up with because like I said, I want to talk to people in the industry about their journey, how they got here, what do they like, what do they hate. And this is something that you might not answer, or if you don't want to, that's okay. Is there something you don't like about the industry that you wish you could change?
What do I not like about the industry?
And I know it's hard to just
think of that.
Yeah.
No, because I honestly enjoy the industry. I really do. I would have never thought it would have been as fun as it has been these 20 years. But I'm trying to think of what I would change.
Is it distribution? Is it us pesky sales guys? Is it some of the companies, the way they approach things? I don't know.
Well, the only thing that I have to say is there's one particular vendor that will not do business with you if he's locked in with the big guy.
Oh, I see.
And I don't know if you want me to necessarily name that vendor, but however, that is a frustrating thing. Like,
gotcha.
Even though when we were small in the beginning, I kind of understand. You can't give a distributorship to everybody who can. You can't open an account for everybody.
Correct.
Who has a welding business.
Yeah.
But however, now I feel like we're established and you should give us a shot, but they just won't because of that policy.
Yeah, I think that especially those kind of policies have changed a lot. Back in the day, I get it. Things were more black and white. Nowadays, there's ways and flexibility. In doing certain things, especially because most are doing it, and most of us don't have a choice. Because we need to have that footprint. So I get what you're saying, but you always got to treat everyone the same, at least as close as you can on a same level. Mm-hmm. But the reason why I said don't mention the names is because we don't want to piss anybody off. But I'm glad that you were willing to. You can tell me off camera. I'll find out off camera. Charles, thank you very much for spending this half hour with me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
I'm not sure which episode this is going to be. I told Charles that I'm trying to hit my quota of 12 at least before I start posting, since I travel so much. I want to make sure that I have enough backups to post once a week, 4 times a month. And you guys can see this on Instagram, YouTube, which I'll put the links, and some of the platforms for podcast as well, but it'll be on a video blog format first.
Cool.
Thank you again. I'm going to let you go back to work.
Absolutely.
It's a pleasure always. Thank you for always seeing me.
Thank you, Frank.
You got it. All right, guys. I'll see you next time.